Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to have you guys back, and I just want to say thank you for those that have seen my previous video and for those that have followed my channel. Please don't forget to continue sharing and letting everybody know, and if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that way you can get notified every time I do post a new video. So as you guys read from the title, I am going to teach you how to frost a cake. I'm not going too in depth, but it's going to be a simple how to frost the cake. And I'm going to go into what tools to use, and I'm going to go into if you don't make your buttercream, what kind of frosting you can buy or use, and I'm going to go into all those little details as well. If there's a question that one of you have that I did not answer in this video, please feel free to comment down below and ask me those questions. I would love to answer them. If you have anything that you would like to see in the future, please comment down below that as well and let me know. I hope you guys enjoy this video, so let's get to it. Okay guys, so here I have what's called a turntable. This is a pretty fancy turntable. So it's basically what it is. It's just where you could put your cake on, and it can be easier for you to frost your cake or decorate your cake. Right here, this film thing is one of those things that you put under the rugs. I just buy it at the dollar store, and I cut it into the shape of the circle, so that way whenever I do place the cake board on it, it doesn't slide. Here I have what's called a mini offset spatula. This is actually one of my favorite tools to use. And it's what I use to frost my cake. This is a plexiglass that we use to smooth out the edges of the cake. Here is something called simple syrup. So it's just equal parts sugar and equal parts water that you boil over the stove, and it helps you keep your cakes moist. You'll see it later in the video where I use the actual thing. This is frosting. I'm just showing you this, that it could be an option where if you don't want to make your own frosting, you can buy this brand. Is actually one of my favorite brands to buy, and to make sure that it says medium. It's just the texture of the actual frosting. This is what's called a bench scraper. This is what I used to use before I bought the plexiglass to smooth out my edges on my cakes. This is something simple to use before you can buy the plexiglass. This is another spatula that you can use if you don't have the offset spatulas. You can use this one as well. This one's just a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, to spread out your frosting on your cakes. This here is called a cake board. You can use this to put your cakes on, as I pointed out here that I'm using for the cake. There's different sizes. There's 4 inches, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. There's all different kinds of sizes. There's thick ones, there's thin ones. There's many options. Now I am putting the simple syrup on the cake, again to make the cake moist. This is the first step after you place your cake on your cake board. And I'm spreading it out as much as I feel necessary that it needs. Each cake is different. Every cake has different densities. Some need more, some need less. So it just depends on what cake and the cake batter that you're actually using. So now I'm putting the frosting on the cake to be able to do the different layers. I believe I'm going to do 2 layers on this cake. Layers are just how many actual cakes you're using. Tiers are actual, like if you were to speak of steps, going up steps, you have different steps. How many steps do you have? So tiers will be different tiers of cake, but inside the cake there's different layers. So this one is actually 2 layers. So once I put as much frosting as I think that I need, I will then use the offset spatula that I showed you a little while ago to spread out the frosting in the middle. This here is a spatula that I use. It's silicone. It's one of my favorite ones. Again, this one is actually from the dollar store. I have like 10 of them. They're my favorite things. I use this just to get the frosting out of my bowl to put it on my cake, but strictly honestly, that's all I use it for. As you can see here, that I'm putting frosting on the cake. So here I'm showing you how I hold the offset spatula. I grab a hold of the black piece with my whole fist and I put my pointer finger just on that slant of the offset spatula. So here I'm showing you the motion that I use to spread out the frosting on the cake. I just pretty much go back and forth in that motion, and I do whatever I feel is best at the moment and put the frosting in the direction that I need it to go into. You want to make sure that as you're spreading out your frosting goes all the way to the edge of the cake. Just as if it was going to go over. It's fine if it goes over, but you want to make sure that it goes all the way to the edge at least. So once you've got all your frosting spread out evenly at the bottom, you're then going to put your second layer of cake. You're going to push it side by side or however you want until you see that it is even with the bottom layer. You want to make sure of that so that your cake doesn't tilt later on or that you have an even cake. And here you can also use what's called a leveler. A lot of handymen use this to put up when they put up something on the wall or something, and they level it to make sure that it is centered and it's not uneven. I'm not using that here, but you can use that if you'd like, or you can also bend down and use your eyeballs and see if it's leveled. And here I go again with the simple syrup to moist the top layer of the cake. Here is the plexiglass that I showed you earlier. You can use this, it's optional on the top if not, but it's just to make sure you have a nice smooth finish, or you can use your offset spatula and smooth out the top. This is going to be visible already to your client or your whoever you're making it for, because this is already the top of the cake. You're not putting another layer on the cake. At least I'm not putting another layer because I'm only doing 2 layers for this cake. Now I am just smoothing out the edges, so whatever I had excess on the top came out to the edge of the cake, and I'm using that. I'm doing that same motion that I was doing on the top, but instead I'm kind of slightly pushing down so that I can get that frosting that is sticking out onto the side of the cake. So whenever you're frosting a cake, the first thing you want to do when you're done stacking your layers is do what is called a crumb coat. This just means that you are locking in all of those crumbs that can potentially be on the visible side for your client or whoever you may be doing it for. So you put on this first layer per se of frosting to lock in all of those crumbs and they don't escape or be visible on your next layer of frosting. This particular cake, I believe, is a naked cake that I'm doing. That just means that at the finished look, you're going to see some of the cake through the frosting. And that's just what's called a naked cake. If you have the experience and you're able to do a crumb coat without having specks of the cake in the frosting, you can accomplish this type of style with just the one layer, and not have to do 2 layers where you're locking in the crumbs. Once I'm done doing the crumb coat, I then come in with what I used to come in with, the bench scraper. This is where you would use the bench scraper if that's what you have at the moment. But I have the plexiglass, so I use this to smooth everything out nicely and evenly. If you look to the right, you'll be able to see the smoothness of the cake, and whatever pockets that you see there, I will then come in after and fill them in and then redo the plexiglass again. All of this takes time. As the more you get experience with it, the faster it can be for you. But I can honestly sit here all day just making the cake smooth. I personally cannot go too far into it because then I literally would be there all day, and I just want to make it to perfection. But it comes to a point where it just won't go any further. So once I see on my cakes that it is smooth enough, I have to stop. If not, I will never finish. And I'm doing all this in real time, so that way you guys can truly see what it takes and how long it takes to do all of this. It's a little tedious, but I love doing it, and honestly, it calms me. People look at me, think I'm crazy, but it really truly does. Once I'm done smoothing out the edges with the plexiglass, I then come back to the top of my cake and I smooth it out and make it even. So as you smooth, you're going to realize a buildup on top of the cake. This part here, there's several ways of doing this. There's different methods out there, but you have to find your way, your method that will work for you. Right now, this is what works for me, where I just grab my offset spatula, my little mini one, and I, one at a time, scrape the edges of the cake on the top. And every time I swipe, I clean my offset spatula. You should not continue using it. Every time you swipe, as I just did now, I clean off the spatula, come back, and I swipe again. And this will give you a clean cut finish on the edges. So here's a close-up to this side of the cake. As you can see, they're very nice clean cut edges and very smooth sides of the cake. For the final touch of the cake, we are now going to clean our cake board. So this is just a regular paper towel that I damped and I squeezed out all of the water. And I'm showing you how I wrap it around my finger, just on my pointer, and I go as close as possible to the cake without touching the cake, and just slowly and smoothly clean the board, and it will look as if there was nothing on it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope that it answered many questions that you guys had or have had in the past whenever you frost a cake, or if you're ever interested in frosting a cake and maybe making one for your kids or your cousins or your nieces or your nephews or whatever the case is, or your family members or friends, and you just want to do something at home by yourself. I hope that this can help you out. And again, like I said previously, if you have any questions that I did not answer here, please feel free to comment down below and let me know what they are, and let me know anything that you would like to see in the future. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not already, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye guys.